was just around the corner and metal was getting harder, faster and weirder. Here were the best albums that soundtrack to 1989. The 80s came to screaming towards a close. Metal was unrecognizable from the entity it was 10 years earlier. Things had got heavier, faster and weirder. Thrash had reached critical mass before mutating into something even more extreme in the shape of death metal. A wave of alternative rock bands were gene-splicing their own sound with metal's extremity, while grunge was starting to stir in Seattle, about to serve notice on hair metal that the party would soon be over. Metal's big guns were still alive and kicking, but 1989 stands as a change of the guard just in time for a new decade, and here are some albums to prove it. Carcass reached a creative high-low depending on your point of view with their second album. Housed in a collage of gruesome body parts, cadaver and bodies in various stages of disrepair. The music was equally brutal, although this time the band were already beginning to stretch themselves with slightly longer material and more complex arrangements. Still earthy grindcore, of course, and with song titles like Cadaveric Incubator of the Endoparasites or Swarming Vulgar Mass of Infective Virulency. Their humour shunned though, their shock value unabated, and on extreme to consume they went way beyond the bounds of taste. Brave No More's third album was platinum awareness for the masses. It wasn't just that this was the world's introduction to Mike Patton that made this album special. San Franciscans had been steadily building towards this something over their 7-year existence, and the real thing was it. It was their remodeled their sound into their super colourful, hot-stopping pop metal. Almost any track from this album could have been a hit, and Epic was simply colossal. And then there was, of course, Patton, who from now loaded on Brave No More's music with a lethal dose of sarcasm and surrealism. The debut LP by the UK's most miserable band, former Napalm Death man Justin Broderick's thick, monotone bellows are very much from Detention Sessions with Swan's Michael Gira. While the whole thing sounds like a bit like Killing Joke playing Black Sabbath in a cement mixer, the harsh, cold drum machine adds to the album's bleak tone and proves industrial pipe bangers that don't need to go as fast as Ministry to be this heavy. Ministry's album matched industrial with a thrash in a way never done before. Heavily inspired by SOD Speak English or Die and Texican thrashers rigor mortis, this record is a relentless, riotous nightmare with several curveballs. Cannibal Song has Al Jorgensen channeling the Police more experimental moments. Test his rapper K-Light proclaiming this is a test over one riff, but as much as the experimentation adds to the record, the mind is a terrible thing to taste, benefits most from that pure, dunderheaded, thrash elemental that smashes straight into the industrial. This timeless record, alongside the ensuing tour, which featured 20-foot high fences between bands and fans, celebrated Ministry as legends of industrial. Really held as the landmark for emerging death metal. Morbid Angel's 1989 debut alters a man that set the bar so hard for the entire genre that people are still trying to match its real splendour more than 30 years later. Back in 1989, nobody had ever heard anything like Altars of Madness before. The Floridians made Slayer look like Weezer. This was a twisted, pitch black, and incredible sophisticated upgrade for Chuck Children's Deathly Blueprint. Dre Azotov's churning, otherworldly riffs, David Vincent's painless growls, and the band's idiosyncratic approach and progressive mindset set them apart from their peers. Songs like Trouble Ghouls and Immortal Brights have been tots for otherworldly menace and riffs that tear your soul apart, still untouchable after all these years. If death were the Beatles of death metal, Obituary were its Rolling Stones, a dirtier, groomier, more streetwise proposition. But what makes their momentous debut album look lacks in subtlety and made up in for noise and attitude. This was the ultimate horror movie soundtrack without a film. Songs such as Till Death and the immortal title track were explosions of viscera, instantly becoming rubber stamp death metal landmarks. Still, Sepultura were more of a death metal outfit on their initial releases, but by the time Beneath the Remains came and around, the band had redefined their sound, replacing studied mobility with superhuman intensity. The second full length album is a tremendous record, up there with the best of Slayer. It's a triumph lacerating technicality with a high-speed grinding riffs and a sludgy industrial undercurrent. You know exactly what you're getting on the bottom of its chant of brain-killing brain, while Inner Self, walking these dirty streets with hate in my mind, is a chilling tale of a life in a third world country. The last great thrash album of the 80s, Struggle and Hate indeed. By the time of their momentous third album, Bay Area behemoths Testament were knocking on the door of Big 4 for entry. Running off a scintillating 3-album salvo, there's very little to separate practice we preach from its predecessors, the legacy and the new order, in terms of sheer quality. Greenhouse Effect and Sins of Omission crackle with propulsive vitality, while Time is Coming and misleadingly titled The Ballad sound absolutely massive. Benefiting from a beefed up production, the leap to superstardom never quite happened, but this proves that Testament were in it for the long haul no matter what. Angel men David Vincent and Pete Sandoval teamed up with vocalist Oscar Garcia and guitarist Jesse Pizzardo later on, and were there for this monstrous explosion of deathly grindcore fury. Songs like Dead Shall Rise and Fear of Napalm are established classics, more firmly metallic than primitive and punk. They pack a precise punch that unites an entire generation. Unfortunately, Pintado sadly passed away in 2006, but for this alone he deserves legendary status. Rest in power, Pintado.